Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will feature Treasure Island, San Francisco Bay. You should know that Treasure Island is a man-made island in the center of San Francisco Bay. It's halfway between the city of Oakland and the city of San Francisco, and it is attached to Yerba Buena Island, which serves as an anchorage for the San Francisco Oakland Bay Bridge, which is required to build a bridge of that length. It's approximately 7 miles distance from the city of Oakland to the city of San Francisco. It's approximately a 7 mile span. So the Yerba Buena Island serves as a necessary anchorage. Then they built a concrete pseudo island between Yerba Buena Island and the Embarcadero and the World Trade Ferry Building, the World Trade Club and the Ferry Building. That's the anchorage for the San Francisco Oakland Bay Bridge into the city. It connects Highway 80 on the east side in Oakland to Bayshore Freeway, Highway 101 in San Francisco, the San Francisco Bay. All right, so the bridge was constructed during the Great Depression. Remember when we had no banks and we didn't have any money, but we built the Golden Gate Bridge and we built the Oakland San Francisco Bay Bridge and we built Treasure Island, which became a Navy air station and also the headquarters for Pan America's clipper ship fleet was flown out of the Treasure Island hangars. And we built a marina there known as Clipper Bay, kind of named after the Pan American flying ships. They can land on the water and they fly in the sky. Clipper ships, all right, they were quite the thing, and they were connecting up the Philippines and Asia with the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, yours truly, Juxtaposition, has swum in Clipper Bay when I was a child. I've also swum directly underneath the Oakland Cantilever Bridge directly to the east of Yerba Buena Island, very close to the island. I'm here to tell you the water is like 53 degrees, very cold. I did not have a wetsuit. I was unable to stay in the water for long. It was very uncomfortable. And I had no idea that there was plutonium and radiation poisoning in Clipper Bay. Yeah. And that's what you're going to learn today with a 13-minute video that I'm going to play you in a moment. But there I am swimming around in a United States Navy toxic waste dump site. Anyway, Treasure Island was constructed from 1936 through 1937 in anticipation of the World's Fair, known as the Golden Gate International Exposition. Don't forget, San Francisco had already hosted the World's Fair in 1915, approximately 25 years earlier. And here they were going to get a second bite at the apple, except that instead of hosting it at the Presidio, Army base, they were going to move it here to Treasure Island. And it at that time they named it Golden Island because, of course, California was celebrating the gold rush created by Switzerland, right? Because Switzerland discovered the gold in California on Swiss real estate, Swiss national property. It's called New Helvetia, and Johann Sutter, aka John Sutter, was the owner of 49,000 acres of land up in Sacramento County, Placer County, El Dorado County, Yolo County, Sutter County, and Yuba counties. And four rivers, Feather River, Yuba River, Sacramento River, and the American River. And it was the American River that James Marshall, an employee and 33-degree Mason, discovered gold in Coloma on the American River at John Sutter's lumber mill, right? And John Sutter was not an American. He's a Swiss national. He was a Swiss national. Now he had provisional Mexican national status as well. But he was born in Switzerland, and he lived and resided, and his family was in Basel, which is home to, of course, the central bank for all central banks. The head of the chemical industry, the head of the pharmaceutical industry is all in Basel, Switzerland. That's who discovered gold, Switzerland. And only after they spent 9 years building out rice fields, alfalfa fields, cattle ranching, chicken ranching, almonds, and other orchards in and around New Helvetia, and built a fort later known as Sutter's Fort. All right. So anyway, I want you to know that nothing about the San Francisco Bay Area belongs to America. It's all Swiss national operation. All right. All right. Because there would be no Golden Island, no Golden Gate Bridge, no Golden Dragon Chinese restaurant in San Francisco if it were not for Johann Sutter, a Swiss national, discovering gold on the American River. Got it? Get it? Good. San Francisco will tell us that the tract of land is combining Yerba Buena Island and Treasure Island together is 577 acres. Okay. And Treasure Island man-made landfill is 393 acres unto itself. But remember, that is unmade. It was just a series of shallow shoals prior to the construction of this Navy island. All right. So, the island was built under the tutelage of the United States Navy. And of course, once the World's Fair concluded, they immediately turned it over to the Navy, who polluted the crap out of the island. So that's what we're going to listen to now. And you get a feel for how my appreciation of Treasure Island. They're building homes and Hollywood sets and in the old hangars, and there's townhouses out there. And let me tell you something: the radiation poisoning at Treasure Island is going to last 500 years. So you got to have a hole in your head to want to sleep overnight on Treasure Island, let alone swim in that toxic waste marina there. But what are you going to do? I swam there. All right, enjoy the video and we'll circle the wagons back at the end.
Poisoned by the U.S. Navy on Treasure Island in San Francisco Bay. Toxic tour of Treasure Island's Navy warfare schools on Friday, November 15, 2024. The tour was sponsored by Bradley Angel, Executive Director of Green Action for Health and Environmental Justice. He was accompanied by his team, Tyler Sekulis, Vanilla Elam, Sherlitha Holmes Box, and Carol Harvey, investigative reporter and tour guide. Beautiful group of people is in this car. It's amazing. We're driving to the top of Yerba Buena Island. Look at these views. This is what we're here for. I want to show you Treasure Island all spread out in front of you. From up here. Here's Treasure Island from the top of Yerba Buena Island. Bradley asked the key question. How did the radioactive contamination get here? Didn't they intentionally contaminate Treasure Island to train the sailors? They did it because they weren't paying attention. Okay. Wait a minute. Bradley, in retrospect, you're right on target. The Navy did intentionally contaminate Treasure Island and expose sailors to radiation so they could operate the schools. The Navy also contaminated Treasure Island and poisoned the sailors by not paying attention to the proper operation of their schools. This becomes clear as we visit the footprints of 4 Navy radiation schools, all located along the shoreline, and consider the impact on the community. As you can see from this map, at number 1, we look down from Yerba Buena Island at Building 2, which contained the Naval Reserve School. Then we drove down to Treasure Island, to number 2 on the map at the shore, Building 233, where the worst radiation spill on the island happened in 1950. Then we drove from number 2 to number 3 on the map, the most toxic place on Treasure Island, the Radiac schools with the underground radium vault. We then drove west to number 4, Site 6, which is radioactive and contaminated with PFAS forever chemicals from the firefighting schools. Then we curve around the shore to number 5, where these radiation schools created a radioactive community. First, some history. Treasure Island was built in 1936 for the Golden Gate International Exposition. In 1941, after the exposition was over, the Navy took the island for its administrative base and to conduct warfare schools for sailors. The one at the end, that's Building 3. The one ahead of it is Building 2. During the exposition, Building 2 was called the Hall of Transportation. The spirit of aerial transportation stands above the side entrance of Building 2. Harrison had flying boats. Well, they were called ships. Building 2, the Hall of Transportation, was the hangar for the China Clippers. They were supposed to connect San Francisco with China. When the Navy took over the island, the Naval Reserves conducted courses for sailors in Building 2. The school in Building 2 was used to train sailors when the Navy had the island. In 1938, Naval Reserve Chief Warrant Officer Joseph Stallman, depicted here from Navy archives, attended the island's Reserve Center, Building 2, formerly a Pan American hangar, the country's largest Naval Reserve training center. In Building 2, the Naval Reserves held chemical weapons courses using deadly tear gas, mustard gas, and lewisite made of arsenic. For classes in nuclear warfare, they held radioisotopes with half-lives of thousands of years, like radium, uranium, and plutonium. The Navy's typically sloppy disposal of these dangerous materials polluted Building 2, the surrounding soil, and the waters of Clipper Cove. The sources are still there. They have half-lives of thousands of years. You can't get rid of the stuff. So it is now polluting Clipper Cove and the ground around it and the building. Residents have reported skin sores after swimming in Clipper Cove. Then we drove to Building 233. In 1950, the worst radium spill in island history happened in Building 233 on the side of the island facing Oakland. We're parked at the Star. Building 233 was a Radiac instrument calibration school at Avenue M and 4th Street. The Navy loves acronyms. RADIAC is a Navy acronym for Radiation Detection, Indication, and Computation. In the RADIAC schools, instructors train students in instrument maintenance and calibration. This is Building 233 from the 4th Street side, just before it was demolished in 2011. The footprint of Building 233 is behind this metal fence. In 1950, there was a lab there where they would sailors how to handle radiation, and they had radiation salts in tubes in this lab. And somebody broke a tube and it all went out. They tracked it over here under these trees and parked in place the car. They walked it across the island and they drove the radiation across the bridge to San Francisco. In 1951, the Navy put 200 barrels of radioactive waste from Building 233 on the USS Independence and sunk it at the Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary near Half Moon Bay. Next, we drove west on Avenue M to the most toxic Radiac school footprint on Treasure Island. Following the arrows to the right on this map, we drove from Building 2 to Building 233 to the Radiac schools at the top of the map. Now, Radiac schools consisted of 3 buildings. Building 342 on the left, a classroom. Building 344 in the middle, a radium vault. And Building 343 on the right, another classroom. This is the way they looked before they were demolished. You have to use your imagination to see them sitting on their concrete pads. Pull up there, or right here. You see the concrete thing on the right here? The concrete pad under the classroom on the right. That had a building on it. It was a school for sailors where they taught them how to use something called check sources. Check sources are little pieces of equipment with radiation in them that you can use to measure the radioactive level in other equipment. Okay, they're teaching these sailors how to use them in the building on the right. that isn't there anymore. Look toward the far fence and you'll see another strip, another class. I walked into it. I've been inside it. I walked behind it. It was another classroom and they're doing the same thing. Right? Then they sunk what they called a radium vault 50 feet below the ground, concrete wall, foot and a half thick. That was there in 2019. I videoed it. I nearly went into it, but I didn't want to go in there because they were holding cesium-137 sources, plutonium, and a lot of sources that they never told us about in this vault where they were protecting people from it. It was a concrete box, essentially, 50 feet below ground. There were steps going down to it. There's a padlock on the door. They dug that up, got rid of it. And I came out here repeatedly and videoed it. There were homeless people living in the vault. It took them 2 years to beat in the top of that vault. This photo, shot in 2019, shows another failed attempt to beat in the top of the underground radium vault, building 344 on Avenue M. We're looking through rebar sticking out of the hole at the top of the vault at tagging done by people who didn't know it was radioactive. Bradley visited in 2017. Building 344 was in the process of being demolished in 2019.
That building was here when I was here.
Yes,
Right.
yes, it was.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that. That footprint is radioactive today. There's a skate park immediately to the west. From the Radiac schools, we drove west to number 4 on the map, the Navy's cleanup zone, Site 6. Site 6 was a Navy firefighting school and radiation storage yard. Where the Navy doesn't know how to clean it up? On Site 6, the Navy had a firefighting school for 50 years from 1944 to 1992, where trainees learned to put out fires on ships. They lit fires and snuffed them out using aerosolized firefighting foam containing perfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS. PFAS are a large group of bonded forever chemicals resistant to breakdown and cleanup by the Navy. PFAS attack the immune system and cause birth defects and cancer. In 2014, there were also boxcars in this field for storing radioactive material before moving it off the island. They were taking all the radioactive dirt stuff, putting it in these cars, and storing it in that field. So that field is radioactive. In the distance, you can see Austin Hall, where the Navy held firefighting classes. This is Austin Hall on Site 6 in 2014. The Navy held firefighting classes here and stored radiation sources in this building. The building stands today in 2024. Next, we drove to number 5 on the map, the radioactive community facing Alcatraz, Angel Island, and the city of San Francisco. People here live with radiation under their residences and all around them.
Right in here is where I saw there were signs on the fences, like 10, 15 feet from the building. Right. So from people's windows, back doors. And this was the radioactive cleanup area where I took the pictures.
In 2017, Bradley Angel, Green Action Director, took photographs to document the proximity of Treasure Island residents' homes and backyards to radioactive cleanup zones. These photos Bradley took show that people were living right next to cleanup zone fences with yellow radiation signs on them. Here you can see the yellow radiation signs on the fence and a vehicle working behind the fence in the cleanup zone. That one, right there. In 2014, the Navy evicted 24 families from this 1205 Bayside Drive townhouse after discovering it was radioactive. Then they erected a fence around it, which put it inside a radiation cleanup zone. Moving to the next townhouse down the street, in 2019, the Navy removed a basketball-sized clump of radioactive soil from under the front step of this address 1203A Bayside Drive. Here, Navy workers are digging a basketball-sized clump of radioactive soil from under the front step of 1203A Bayside Drive. Moving to the first townhouse on the street, in 2014, radioactive soil was dug from under this sidewalk at 1201B Bayside Drive. And finally, in 2013, radiation was found behind this bench on Gateview Avenue directly across the street from 1201B Bayside Drive. These radioactive objects and soils were lined up under a series of addresses and a bench along Bayside Drive. They seem to have flowed inland from the Bayside Solid Waste Disposal Area radioactive toxic dump at the shore. This means the whole street is radioactive. Recently, on Monday, November 11, 2024, at nearby Reeves Court, a block away from Bayside Drive, a resident used his cell phone to video two men waiting in the parking lot while a woman scanned with a Ludlum radiation measuring wand the footprint where the 1126 Reeves Court townhouse once stood. In 2024, they're still searching for radiation on Treasure Island. This raises two questions. How much radiation still pollutes Treasure Island soil? And does this recent scanning mean the Navy confesses they have failed to take it all out? Noting the multiple radiation exposures, Shirlitha asked, a great question, Shirlitha. Shouldn't they evacuate all of Treasure Island? We're Carol Harvey, video Skylar Sekulis and Carol Harvey, research James Pepper and Carol Harvey.
Okay, so in summary of our examination into the United States Navy NATO forces Treasure Island, let me just say this about the video we just saw. The NATO forces will pollute anything, anywhere, all the time. I've grown up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I am aware that the military dumped radioactive 55-gallon drums, hundreds of them, out at the Farallon Islands, which is a couple of miles to the west of the Golden Gate Bridge, out there where the great white sharks look for seals to eat. And they dumped similar toxic radioactive waste in Monterey Bay and in Half Moon Bay, which is between San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge and the Monterey Bay, Carmel, Pebble Beach. Remember that? Pebble Beach, they have golf tournaments down there. They get toxic waste dumped off the shoreline from Pebble Beach. Oh, yeah. Pacific Grove, May, Brussels had a radio station out of Pacific Grove next to Pebble Beach. All right, so what I wanted to tell you is then we had Operation Sea Spray, where Navy airplanes and Army airplanes sprayed aerosol toxic waste over the city of San Francisco and seven other cities unnamed in and around the San Francisco Bay, dumping pollution from the sky, aerosol poisoning in the 50s. This is 10 years after they already created a toxic waste dump site at Treasure Island Navy Air Station, which was relocated to the Alameda Naval Air Station close by. Just another man made island, Alameda, attached to the port of Oakland. All right, so they pollute our skies today with Terra Swarm, with MIMS, MIMOs, smoke dust, uh, mesogens, nanoparticulates, sensors that can send and receive, and then gets in your skin, in your lungs, in your blood system. And then it's a biosensor, and it's a Frankenstein monster CRISPR-Cas9 DNA engineering device. That's the purpose of Zug Switzerland. Everything that's going on in your strategic hamlet, in your township, within your Swiss Hunger game, is being run out of Geneva, Switzerland, and Zug is creating your Frankenstein monster neuromodulation molecular engineering. Okay, it's human augmentation. They don't want to say that. They want to call it precision medicine, point of care, e-medicine, e-pharmacy. It's going to cure cancer. Poppycock and balderdash is going to give you cancer. It's going to give you turbo cancer. It's going to give you brain cancer. Okay? It's going to give you lung cancer. We have so much pollution now in our air, in our water, and in our soils. Aluminum is a huge health risk. Besides causing Alzheimer's disease, it can do all manner of other terrible things to your immune system. The media calls it long COVID. It's not. It's radiation poisoning. It's the Havana syndrome. If you want to call it what it is, call it radiation poisoning. It's magnetic resonance pulsing. It's photonics, optogenetics, sub-millimeter wave toxicity, and its ultrasonic sound wave submillimeter toxicity. So again, it's radiation, meaning pulsing, it's radiation poisoning of all manner of carcinogenic processes, plus molecular engineering waves, managing the wavelengths of the delivery of your, it's not microwave, it's sub-microwave, sub-millimeter wave. I just have a tremendous ringing in my ears as I say it. All right, thanks everyone for listening. Do like and share my videos. I am heavily shadow banned, and the only way I can grow my channel is if you get one person at a time to subscribe. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. Bye now.